Guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives. Welcome to episode 22 of 6 with 6 Strings. It's been a while since I've done an episode of this series. I do apologize for that. Need to get back on track. So if you're newer to the channel, this is just me grabbing 6 albums from my collection. Just random albums, random bands, maybe something that I've been spinning. Maybe I'll tie it in with a vinyl or CD reissue of this certain album. And just something maybe I just want you to know about, and maybe if you're watching and maybe it's an album that you've forgotten about or you've maybe on the fence about. I do show newer bands, older bands, ranging from hard rock to some death metal, everything in between, just showing you a little bit of range of what I like to listen to. So today we're going to start off with actually this one I've had on pre-order, so it's getting a vinyl reissue, and I'm talking about Nuclear Assault's Handle with Care. It's getting a vinyl reissue that I've had on pre-order since September, finally getting released January 21st on vinyl. But this is the third album from Nuclear Assault from 1989. Really solid East Coast thrash. You got your East Coast thrashers like Anthrax, Overkill. I think Toxic is from that area too, of the country, of the US. But anyways, this is getting a vinyl reissue. Game Over, which is actually my favorite from Nuclear Assault, got a vinyl reissue last year. So looking forward to picking this one up on vinyl. And if you are interested, January 21st release date. Here's the back. This one actually has the Live at the Hammersmith Odeon EP or whatever attached to it. So like I said, solid thrash album. Game Over is up here. This one just a little, I would say this would be probably my third favorite from Nuclear Assault. And why I say that too, well, their EP is great too, The Plague. But after this album, I don't even know anything from Nuclear Assault. So let me know in the comment section. Their fourth album, what is it called? Out of Order, I think. But let me know, is that still worth picking up too? But songs to check out on here, I mean, the most popular song on here was called Critical Mass. Great track. A couple favorites of mine, Surgery, Search and Seizure, the closing track, Trail of Tears, some East Coast thrash if you're interested. Gave that a spin the other day. And like you, I learned from watching videos and other channels, and I do enjoy discovering newer bands. And you know what I mean about newer bands for me, bands that have started in the 2000s, maybe the early 2000s. But here's a band I discovered right here through friends and recommendations. And I showed this band in episode 13 of 6 with 6 Strings. So this is the second appearance by Ram. You know what? At first, the name of the band was, it was a bit of a turnoff. I just Ram. I don't know about that name, but once I dug into their material, there was no looking back. Fantastic. Just where's the hype sticker? It actually says something pretty cool on here. True heavy metal with class. So you could say in the vein of Priest, it's a dual axe attack. Great vocals. Oscar, this band's from Sweden, by the way. This is their fourth album. So in that previous episode, I showed their third album called Death. This one's called Subversum, and there's kind of a Subversum right there. Very cool logo, but great band from Sweden. This is they now have 6 studio albums out. Should be due for a new one here in 2022. But this is my personal favorite from this band. I feel like this is one of their heaviest efforts. Their second album, Lightbringer, was quite heavy. The one I showed you in the previous, or that appeared in the previous episode of 6 with 6 Strings, episode 13. The album was called Death. That one was not as heavy as this one, in my opinion, but actually just as good. They just really solid, like the sticker said, true heavy metal. Check out some of my favorite tracks, which would be, go YouTube Return of the Iron Tyrant. If you're liking it, you should be hooked right there. A couple other tracks that I really enjoy, Eyes of the Night and Holy Death. So this is Sweden's band from Sweden called Ram. I don't want to say new wave of traditional heavy metal. I don't know, it's just metal. They've been around for probably since 2000 and, well, I think their first album came out in 2005, so they've been around for a while, probably formed in the early 2000s. Here's an album that I had on cassette years ago. And what sparked me getting this one again was their second, actually, technically their fifth album, but their second major label debut album is up for pre-order on Rock Candy, which Rock Candy does a killer job, but I'll tell you a little bit about that pre-order in a second. But what I picked up is Dirty Looks, Cool from the Wire. This is, so they do have 3 independent albums that came out before this. So to a lot of people, this is their debut. And for all intents and purposes, this is the debut for me too. This one and Turn of the Screw, which is now reissued on Rock Candy. They're late in 2021. I'm still waiting for my copy in the mail. Should be here any day. That is all I need for this band. But getting back to this album, Cool from the Wire, that title track is awesome. Again, Rock Candy, great job. I wouldn't say that this isn't glam. It's not sleaze. It's just hard rock, and in the vein of just AC/DC. I would say, and this guy, what's his name, Henrik. He has passed away, and rest in peace, Henrik Ostergaard. Man, he could have easily been a replacement, or could have been a singer for AC/DC easily. Got that Bon Scott swagger to his voice, that whole thing. But here is the cover out of the sleeve. But just a great album, solid top to bottom. Cool from the Wire, like I mentioned, the opening track. My favorite track on here is the track 2, It's Not the Way You Rock. Track 3, Can't Take My Eyes Off You. Oh Ruby, you might have heard that one. But yeah, this is just a top to bottom solid album produced by Max Norman. And so yeah, I pre-ordered Turn of the Screw. So this one came out in 88. Turn of the Screw came out in 89. Probably all I know. There's other stuff floating around from Dirty Looks, but their 2 major label albums would be the ones I would need. Let me know in the comments if there is anything else I should be checking out. What's up next? Well, I'm spinning a little kick axe in the background. This band was formed actually 2 hours away from where I live here in Saskatchewan, Canada. Been listening to these guys. Well, they don't have a lot of output. They have 4 albums in total, 3 with this lineup. But Vices, you might know this album. That is really like a metal album. Their second one, which we're going to talk about today, which came out in 1985, called Welcome to the Club. This one's a bit of a departure, a little more, it's got metal elements, but it's more of a hard rock album throughout, produced by Randy Bishop and Spencer Proffer. You might, I don't know, all 4 of their albums are different, and even their third album, Rock the World. So their first album, Vices, this one, Welcome to the Club and Rock the World, have had recent reissues on Rock Candy, I think a couple of years ago. I have all those. They sound great if you do want to check out some good old hard rock / metal from Canada. But yeah, tracks to check out. The title track, Welcome to the Club, awesome. I'd say my favorites are more the heavier stuff on here. Hellraisers, Can't Take It With You. Probably my favorite track on here is called Feel the Power. There is a cover of the Beatles on here called With a Little Help from My Friends. Personally, I can do without it. Nothing against the Beatles. It doesn't fit that well. There was actually a couple other tracks that could have been included on this album that were actually given to the band. If you're familiar with the band King Cobra, their debut, Ready to Strike, 2 of the songs on that album were penned by these guys from Kick-Axe. And one was the lead-off single called Hunger, if you're familiar with King Cobra. And the closing track on that album, which is called Piece of the Rock, both penned by Kick-Axe. There is a version of Hunger floating around out there from Kick-Axe, but They didn't, actually it was on an old movie, the very first Transformers movie, but under a different band name. Maybe, you know, maybe the word kick axe was just too harsh for that soundtrack. I don't know. But if you ever see the band Spectra General, that's what they did that song and one other song for that soundtrack for. So Hunger, I personally like Kick Axe's version of Hunger better. It's just more angry sounding, and maybe that's why it didn't fit on this album too, and was given to King Cobra to record. And the other great track too was called Piece of the Rock. So those two songs are floating out there. If you know the band Kick Axe, definitely check out their version of Hunger and Piece of the Rock. But this, their follow-up album to Vices, well worth checking out from these Canadian rockers. All right, coming up, let's stick with the Canadian theme. Now, I said this in a previous video. This is one of those, we're going to put speed first. Speed/thrash albums that you need to check out before you die list, you know. And this album from Razor, I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check out Violent Restitution. This is Razor's 5th album and last with Stacey McLaren on vocals. I'm good with the first 5 Razor albums. If you're familiar with the band, I'm sure you've heard of Evil Invaders, which would be, geez, right up there with number 1 for me with this. Maybe Evil, I don't know. Whatever. It's they're both fantastic, but with Stay Sheepdog McLaren on vocals is kind of the first 5 that I'm after. Bob Reed took over on vocals and is currently their vocalist. They got a new album coming out, supposed to be coming out this year, called Cycle of Contempt. I'm looking forward to that too. I'll check it out, but like I said, Stacey McLaren. Anyways, check out anything off this album. This is relentless start to finish. If you know the album, you know what I'm talking about. Check out some of these tracks. Taste the Floor, Below the Belt, the title track of Violent Restitution. This is a High Roller reissue actually from last year. Just a great job by High Roller. Highly recommend some Razor. What do we got next here today? Last one for today is, I would say in overall scheme of things, this band never really got as big as they should have, could have, had some unfortunate lineup things, dropped by their label. But I'm talking about Armored Saint. A lot of people know their debut album, March of the Saint, their second album, Delirious Nomad. But their third album, I was spinning the other day and I thought, this is as good as I've always remembered it to be. This is Armored Saint's third album called Raising Fear. So unfortunately, they were dropped from their record label after this. They were on Chrysalis for their first 3 albums. Like I mentioned, March of the Saint and Delirious Nomad, and then this one. And then they lost their record label. Also, their founding guitar player had passed away, a couple years after this. Dave Pritchard, may he rest in peace. But anyways, if you know the band Armored Saint, don't overlook this one. This one actually was recorded as a 4-piece. Phil Sandoval was not on this album. He had left the band on the previous album, Delirious Nomad. So recorded as a 4-piece. This one I like this one better than Delirious Nomad. I still do like the debut. One of my favorites. And if you've ever watched this channel, you would know kind of where I stand on their 4th album, Symbol of Salvation. Fantastic. One of my all-time favorite albums. But this one, little less polished than its predecessor, Delirious Nomad, which was produced by Max Norman. Maybe a little too much polish, but this one, I'm not going to say back to basics, but a little more warmer in the production, not as, flashy, whatever you want to say, but really solid album. Some key tracks, Raising Fear, the title track. Not a big covers guy, but there is a cover of Saturday Night Special on here, which John Bush, well, I've said it before too, one of metal's premier vocalists, This guy has not lost a step in all these years. Couple favorite tracks. Actually, my very favorite track on here is called Chemical Euphoria. Check out the track Out on a Limb, or this one wraps up with another good one called Underdogs. Hoping this gets reissued on vinyl. I'll snap that up in a heartbeat. I have that. That's my original copy, and then I also picked up this Japanese pressing, which sounds really good too. Even the original copy, I'd say the only difference, maybe this one's a little bit louder, without being brick walled, but these Japanese pressings are usually, top notch. So yeah, there is just six, like I said, 6 random albums from my collection. Hopefully something maybe in there that you want to check out, something new to you. And, or like I always say, let me know in the comments of stuff I can check out, maybe something I've missed. And definitely give Ram a try. They're one of probably my favorite of the newer metal that's been in my collection, or newer bands that I've been checking out over the past few years. But hope you enjoyed that episode. I will work a little more diligently to get you a little more content of these type of episodes. It's always nice to just grab something that already exists from your collection. Those updates can get pretty costly, and I don't want to just depend on stuff like that. And hey, why not? We can just talk some metal. So anyways, until next time, stay heavy.